He was on the Saints All-40th team, Saints All-50th team, a Pro Bowler, an All-American, and a Saints Hall of Famer. He was Derland Moore. The full interview up next.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Kearney.
This is Toy Cook.
I'm Randy Mueller.
This is Quinn Early.
I'm Delvin Bro.
I'm Alex Molden.
I'm Jake Cup. And this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
The Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
Whodat?
Derland Moore, John Butler, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. No complaints. Nobody listens anyway, you know?
Well, let me ask you a question. How you feeling physically?
I don't know. John, I'm like a used car, you know? All the parts are there, just some of them don't work.
So I understand you grew up on a farm. What was that like for you?
Well, you learn a work ethic. You have to if you want to eat. But, John, I mean, it was always something to do. You never had to look around to stay busy. I mean, it was always there. And it was fun to a degree. I mean, your social life is kind of limited, you know?
Right.
But, I mean, there was, during the summer, when we were getting wheat out, I mean, it wasn't unusual for us to go 48 hours in a row, you know, because what you do is you double crop your wheat ground. You change your wheat ground every year, and then you double crop it. You know, like we may put in, you know, 300 acres of wheat, okay?
Jeez.
400 acres of wheat. But what you do is you switch that to a different place every year. And then right after you take your wheat out, you combine your wheat in June, then you got soybeans. You know, you got a plant right behind it. So you actually get two crops off of it.
Oh, wow.
But, buddy, I'm going to tell you, that's work.
Now, I know you were late into playing football in high school, but what other sports did you play in high school other than football?
Well, John, track was my entry into college football, believe it or not. The way I had a grant and aid to Memphis State, and that was to do track and football. And I was involved in Junior Olympics there in Poplar Bluff. A gentleman who was my mentor, Sam Gambaluka, he badgered my dad enough to get me off the tractor to throw the shot put. I never even practiced that summer, but I set the record and won the AAU meet there at Poplar Bluff. And it just so happened the regionals were at the University of Oklahoma. That was after I'd already graduated from high school. And so we went out there in July, and I won the shot put competition there and set an AAU record again. And the head track coach, J.D. Martin, was there. And he came up and was talking to me, and then started asking me questions. And when he found out that I hadn't really committed to anybody, he offered me a full ride right on the spot. And I asked him if I could go out for football, and he said, sure, as long as I got you during the spring. He said, you got to go through spring ball. He said, but they have something, he said, I'm going to save you from. It's called fourth quarter drill. He said, you don't want to be in that anyway. He was right. He was right. Good Lord, they don't even do that anymore in Oklahoma because nobody would come. That was tough, my friend.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I got excluded from that, and I was throwing the shot put, and man, I'm going to tell you what, it worked out beautifully. I mean, it was a good deal. And track was took a sideline, a back seat to football, of course, because in those days you couldn't be professional in one sport and be amateur in another sport. So my ultimate goal was go to the Olympics, but I wanted to play professional football more than I wanted to go to the Olympics. So I had to make a choice, and that's what I had to do at the end of my sophomore year.
So you've mentioned to me before that you were a walk-on at Oklahoma. Were there any schools that actually offered you a roster spot, or was it walk-on only?
No, hell no. They, Southeast Missouri State gave me $120 a semester. That was at Cape Girardeau. And I'm going to tell you, after that, it was a grant and aid from at Memphis State, which wasn't a scholarship, but it was something that would have paid most of my education there. But when Oklahoma came out with a full ride, all of a sudden Southeast Missouri State came up with a full scholarship, and so did Memphis State. And I said they came through with the first one first. And of course, I mean, my God, Oklahoma. I mean, you get an opportunity to go there. I mean, that was the golden nugget.
Absolutely.
And I mean, just the opportunities that it has made possible in my life. It's been tremendous. And I think the most part is the the people you meet along the way. I mean, it was people that I used to read about. I mean, I was actually sitting there, shaking hands with them, having a few drinks, in the spring games and things like that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, that's a family out there, and it's pretty strong.
So who were some of those big names?
Steve Owens was Steve Owens was Heisman Trophy winner, and I mean, Steve and I are friends to this day. And he was 3 years ahead of me, and then his little brother Tinker. I was a senior when Tinker was a freshman, and I'm going to tell you something. Tinker Owens made a hell of a contribution to our team his freshman year. Tinker was, bless his heart, he was real skinny, and I thought he'd get killed. But that little rascal, boy, he was like a bulldog when he was out there. He'd go up for anything and everything. And without him, we wouldn't have won that Sugar Bowl game down here against Penn State. I mean, Tinker was so frail looking that, I mean, these guys from Penn State were knocking his butt all over the field, and finally officials start throwing the interference flags on Penn State. So we ended up, there was two games that he was instrumental in. One was the Nebraska game my senior year, and the Penn State game.
Gotcha.
But what a player. Tinker Owens was a heck of a player. And then he ended up getting drafted by the New Orleans Saints. And he got his knee tore up. I mean, he paid a price, but it just got to the point where he was just too damn. They just couldn't get all the parts back together all the time, because I mean they were tearing him up.
Gotcha.
But he had no fear. Tinker didn't. Jesus.
Who would you say was the biggest influence in ultimately helping you make it to the NFL?
Oh, shit, I would say probably Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson. He was my defensive line coach. I had a marquee of coaches in college. Barry Switzer was the assistant head coach. Barry would always talk to me. I loved Barry. And Larry Lacewell was a great influence. And Jimmy Johnson, everything was technique and being more than just a one-way player. I mean, Jimmy demanded and wouldn't accept anything else than your absolute best. And he brought out things that I didn't even know I had in myself.
So on the other side of the coin, what was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome in making it to the NFL?
Shit, I don't think I had any obstacle. But biggest part was just getting to a college team where I could be known. I mean, University of Missouri, I even asked them if I could walk on, and they told it would be a waste of my time and theirs too. So we played in the University of Missouri every year, and I made sure that they paid a price.
They got the 110% game.
They got the 120% game. But I got a game ball every year we played against Missouri.
That's great.
Get this. This is funny. Dan Devine was the head coach there at University of Missouri, and it was my sophomore year. And I P-laid one of the running backs, and we both went flying underneath the bench, on their side. of the field. That was the game was played at Oklahoma. So I got up and there's Dan Devine sitting there and said, "Hey, Coach Devine, Derland Moore, remember I wasn't good enough to play for you?" And I was jogging down the field and I heard this voice, "Would you allow me to reconsider?"
That is such a great comeback. That is good.
I started laughing. It was funny.
Take me back. What was it like getting that call from the Saints that you were drafted?
Well, J.D. Roberts, J.D. was the Outland Trophy winner at Oklahoma, and he was the head coach here at New Orleans. And when I made National Line a week against Texas, and that's our big game. Then I mean, you got to beat Texas. If a head coach beats everybody and doesn't beat Texas, he's on thin ice. Okay. If he loses against everybody and beats Texas, he's still got another year in front. Another year he's going to be coach. That was. It's always a grudge game, but I've got to tell you, those guys down there, that was one of the hardest hitting. I mean, just straight up, those guys from Texas, there wasn't no cheap shots. I mean, they're going to hit you. They're going to hit you right between the running lights. But that was, I'm going to tell you, the competition was great. The guys have honor, and I mean, I always have respect for the University of Texas, and I always pull for them, except of course when they're playing Oklahoma. But that was a damn good group of guys. Darrell Royal was the head coach then, and Darrell Royal was a quarterback for Oklahoma when he played college ball. But that's a great game. The fans are all into it, and I mean it's one of the greatest games in college football. I guess it's got to be something like Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, one of those long-time, tough rivalries, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's always a grudge match. Very seldom you're going to get a blowout game. Very unusual to have one of those. It's always a right down to the wire game. The day I was drafted, J.D. Roberts, he was the Outland Trophy winner when he played at Oklahoma in the early 50s. And he was the head coach here at New Orleans. And when I had a good game against Texas, he made his mind up. He said, "I'm drafting Derland." And we didn't have a first rounder that year because they traded it away for Billy Newsome and something. I mean, it wasn't a good trade for New Orleans, but anyway. So we didn't have a first round. So the first pick they had was me, and that was a third pick in the second round.
Gotcha.
But JD called me, and I hadn't even heard from New Orleans, which really surprised me. And he goes, it was about an hour before they were going to draft me, and they didn't have it on TV and all this stuff like they used to. I mean, this was it was a flip of the coin where you might go. But he called me and he goes, "Derland," he goes, "This is Coach Roberts in New Orleans Saints." And I said, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" And I mean, of course, JD's pictures all over Oklahoma. He was he was a great player there. And he goes, "We want you to come down here and play for New Orleans." He said, "You want to play for us?" And I said, "Absolutely." He goes, "Well," he said, "if you're still there, when we get to you," he said, "we're going to take you." And I said, "Okay, Coach." I said, "Let's roll." So I got the call, and he goes, "Well, you're a New Orleans Saint." He goes, "I need you to get down here and meet everybody and show you, give you the deal." He said, "I know you're going to do good, Derland." He goes, "This is going." He said, "We're going to win some games." But unfortunately, JD got fired after the last preseason game in '73. That was my first year. And then Coach North, they elevated him from within, and things went from bad to worse.
Now, when you got to New Orleans, were there any player or a couple of players that kind of took you under their wing and showed you what it was like to be an NFL player?
I'm going to tell you a guy that, to this day, and he's still alive, Jake Cupp was an offensive guard for us. And Jake I guess he was about 11, 12-year veteran at that time, maybe about a 10-year veteran. But every day after practice, he goes, Derland, let's go here and do some pass rushes. And I was a little bit behind in pass rushing, technique, because we didn't rush a passer that much in the Big 8. It was mostly, crunch a bunch, because you just didn't throw the ball that much. And Jake, I don't even know why he did this, John, but he had to be tired. I mean, I've been in the league that long, and every day after practice, he would get my ass over there, and we'd go through about 10, 15 pass rushes. And he just did that on his own.
Wow.
Just to teach me. And, I'll never forget that guy as long as I live. And he was great player, great person, good family man, just good people.
Excellent.
And I just, I just never could. I never could thank the man enough for helping me, because he sure helped me in the pass rushing end of it. And he taught me a lot. And Jake was a great grabber. Offensive lineman, how they grab you. He was a good one. And so if you could beat his grabs, then you could beat anybody's grab.
Gotcha.
Because holding, you're going to get hold in every play. It's just, offensive linemen are pretty good at it, and that, as long as they don't rip your jersey off of you, they don't call holding, or, take you down in a, like a wrestling deal. But it's every time that you're in there, you're going to get held. You got to counteract it, and you got to expect it.
Now, I know you played nose tackle, you played defensive tackle, you played defensive end at different points throughout your career. Did you have any preference as far as what position you played and what felt most natural to you?
I played every defense known to mankind. I played the over, under, where they offset the, line to one side, line to the other side. 3-4, which is the Oklahoma defense. It was invented in Oklahoma by Gomer Jones. That's what Bum ran. And then the 4-3. But most of my career, I ran the 4-3. And in fact, John, there was a couple years there I played defensive end, but I wasn't a defensive end. I didn't have the range to be a defensive end as far as pass rush is concerned. But inside's where I felt more comfortable. And the nose tackle position, basically, when we lined up at that near the end of my career, and it was the last third of my career, that's a tough spot. I mean, you're going to get double teamed every play, and in fact, if you don't get double teamed, if you don't command at least a double team, then you're not going to be a nose tackle too long, because it's your responsibility, it's your job to command at least a double team. That way it frees up your linebackers. Mm-hmm. That basically what 3-4 is designed for is to let the linebackers make the tackle, and the defensive linemen, they scoop the trash.
Gotcha.
So that was when we went to that, and under Bum, we were the number one defense there for a couple of years in the NFC. And that was I played with some great guys. I mean, Bruce Clark. You had the linebackers, Dirk Winston, Ricky Jackson. We had Frank Warren, Jim Wilkes, and we had Doc Kovac. He was there for a little bit, but it was I'm going to tell you, that was a pretty salty damn defense. Pretty damn salty.
It's a lot of good names you just rattled off there.
Excuse me?
I said a lot of good names you just rattled off there, so yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and Tony Elliott, Tony was like a high-powered sports car with no steering wheel. I mean, Tony, he's going to kill somebody. He might kill his own people. He'd play. I've never seen. He was kind of like a genetic freak. I saw him come in to training camp weighing 235 pounds, and he sat there and he gained 30 pounds and he grew muscle. I mean, it was just, I couldn't believe it. Never touched a weight, and he just grew strength and muscle.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like that. Tony, if he would have ever converted from what he did on the practice field to a game, he could have been the best defensive lineman that ever played the game. He was that good. He was fast. He was fast, strong, but he could not convert from being a practice player to putting that all together on the field during a game. And I mean, it's a shame because I just looked at Tony. I said, "Good God, what a talent!" And I told Willie Zappalak, I said, "Willie," I said, "you know that Tony," I said, "Geez," I said, "you know, I'm not sure that I need to be the starter." And he said, "Derland," he goes, "let's see what happens in the games." And we get in the game, and Tony never did convert to a game, and not when I was there. He played well after I left, but he never really put all that talent that he showed in practice on the field. I never saw that. God, I mean, it was a shame. You know, Tony was he was a great athlete, but he was kind of crazy. Tony was. And but he never. Basically, to slow him down, all you had to do was go to his feet. And he was so scared of getting his knees tore up that he was dead. He was done. I mean, he never could get past that.
Now, I know in your time in New Orleans, there was a lot of turnover at the head coaching position. Take me through what that was like as a player going through that constant change.
Oh, shit, John, that was the hardest part. I mean, it was turmoil for the most part. I mean, when John North took over, I mean, his first words, now this is the last preseason game, a head coach gets fired he's elevated to head coach. And I remember the first things that he said to our whole team, you know, like, "Hey guys, you know what you would expect, that this is not the way I wanted this job, but you know, I'm here, and we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to win some games." You know, that's what you would expect to see. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. His first words out of his mouth were, "I don't know how long you're going to be here. I'm going to be here a long time. I got a long-term contract." First words out of his mouth. And we all just kind of looked at him like, "What the hell? Yeah. Where in the hell did this lunatic come from?"
Not off to a good start. Jeez.
And we proceeded that week to get beat by Atlanta 62-7. It was almost a revolt. I mean, we actually had a meeting about whether we were going to not show up for practice until they changed coaches. Because he was Looney Tunes.
Wow.
And then John, you know, then things kind of settled in and said, "Well, maybe this will work," but no, we had 3 running plays and 2 passing plays, and we didn't have a 2-minute offense. Can you believe that shit?
Tough to win games in the NFL like that. Jeez.
I mean, back in '73. I mean, come on. I mean, you know, they asked poor Archie, and he's doing the best he can, and they asked him, you know, we were down there and going in, and I mean, it's near the end of the game. We needed a touchdown to win the game, you know. And they go, "Why didn't you?" And reporters were asking, "Why didn't you go into 2-minute offense? You know, to speed things up." They said, "Well, we don't have a 2-minute offense." John, this whole thing. I mean, and then John, you know what his words were? He goes, "Hell," he said, "I know we don't have a 2-minute offense. I'll let you know when we need a 2-minute offense." He goes, "Hell, we can't even run 3 running plays. That's all we got." I mean, everything was so simple, but it was too simple because they were calling their plays. You know, the defense was opposing side.
Yeah, sure.
And but that day after practice, we started practicing 2-minute offense. So it took getting embarrassed, everybody knowing that we didn't have a 2-minute offense for us work on a 2-minute offense. John, looking back, I mean, I'm surprised we won a game at all.
Yeah, with 5 plays, that's a tall order.
John, that's kind of like that's just SOP in the NFL. They've had 2-minute offenses since the 50s or 40s. Good Lord.
So throughout your entire journey in the NFL, was there any moment or any memory that kind of stands out as that was the greatest spot in my NFL career?
John, I don't know. It just seems like my whole career, it just kind of goes into one big beating, you know?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Fair.
I would say my greatest and fondest memories was winning the NFL arm wrestling championship. I don't have any particular game or anything that comes up to in a positive light that I would say. I mean, there was one I wish I could say that we won against the Rams for go to the playoffs for the first time, but we lost that in the last second field goal. But winning the NFL arm wrestling championship, that was basically the highlight of my career because we were looked down upon, you know, the rest of the league because we were the doormat. But on the other side of the coin, I said, you know, this gives me a little bit of freaking pleasure, just beating the shit out of these son of bitches, you know. And then, you know, that's weird. I just wasn't even playing football. My favorite memory is winning an NFL arm wrestling contest. But, you know, John, I didn't exactly just show up and stick my damn arm out there like an old strong country farm boy. I worked at that. I mean, Russell Pedernostro, I was getting second and third. And Russell Pedernostro, who was our strength coach, he came as a strength coach and under Bum. And he goes, you want to win it? And I said, yeah, I want to win it. And I would work out for 2 hours, lifting weights and all this stuff. And then I worked out for another hour after I got through running and everything, just on arm wrestling stuff. I'm not kidding you. I mean, after we got done in the off season doing that, then I had another hour's worth of work. And then 2 days a week, I would go up to around a meet. A friend of mine had a milk farm up there, and he'd save me a couple cows to milk, okay, to you know, get your hand strength and everything up. Mm-hmm. And I did that twice a week. I'd drive up to a meet, and he'd started out saving me 1 cow, and then he saved me 2 cows to, you know, save them from the milking machine.
Right.
And sat there, and that was help your hand grip and everything. So this wasn't exactly just a fluke. I mean, I actually worked and earned that.
Now, I was actually going to ask you about the arm wrestling. Who did you beat in the finals when you won the arm wrestling championship?
I beat Fred Dean first year, and I beat Steve McMichael the second year. Gotcha. Fred Dean played for the 49ers. You know, I'm going to tell you something. Fred Dean was kind of like something that if you cut Fred Dean's head off, the head would have grown a new body, and the body would have grown a new head. I mean, he was indestructible. He was 235 pounds, but pound for pound, the strongest man I've ever got a hold of. But this guy, he's from Louisiana Tech. Fred Dean is. And when we were up there in '85, we had training camp up there, and the trainer there, I happened to meet him one day, and he goes, "You beat Fred Dean arm wrestling?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's incredible." He said, Derland, I couldn't believe that when I saw it on TV. I said, he's not human. And he goes, "No, he's not." He goes, "Derland," he goes, he set the record here for linebackers running the 1.5 miles. You know that when you show up, you know, you run 1.5 miles for your conditioning check. Mm-hmm. And when he got done running, he said, "I know there's blood on the outside of his shirt. You know, the shirt right around, you know, right below, really right, you know, close to his navel. You know, there's blood out there." And I go, "What the hell?" I go, Fred, what's this blood out here? And he goes, oh, my damn girlfriend shot me this morning, and so, and then he goes, what? Yeah, she took a 22. She shot him with a goddamn 22. And they took him to the hospital, and his abdomen was so strong that 22 was logged in his abdominal muscles. And they go in there and pull the damn slug out. And I'm not bullshitting you.
Wow. That's crazy.
And I mean, he went out there and set a record, that I guess still stands today for the speed at which he ran a mile and a half with that slug at him. His girlfriend had shot him that morning.
Oh, God.
You know what? That's just not human.
That is incredible. That's a really good story. Wow. Gee whiz.
Go figure.
Yeah, they don't build them like that anymore. That's for sure.
No. No.
Who would you say was the toughest guy you ever had to go against on the field?
I'm going to tell you something. The toughest son of a bitch ever was Dwight Stevenson from Miami, the center. Mm-hmm. That guy, I'm going to tell you, he was the quickest. I didn't really realize how quick a boxer had to be, but that guy was so quick with his hands. I mean, he was just the best, the absolute best. God, that guy was good. And I just, he was just, he could do things to you that you couldn't believe. And I mean, he tore my ass up in preseason game, and I thought about retiring. I said, good Lord, that's, and Karl Mock said, no, Darryl. I said, he drills everybody. And that pissed me off too, because I ain't everybody. You with me? So I started going through the whole deal. I would watch films on the guy that I was playing that week, and then I watched every reel I could get on him. Coach Willie Zappalak got all the reels, got all the film he could, and what he was doing to defensive linemen, nose tackles, it was embarrassing. So I brought in John Hill, our center. I said, John, look at this son of a bitch. And I mean, John was saying, good Lord, look at Derland. That's incredible. But he was just, finally I kicked John out of the room. I said, you're no help. But I sit there and I said, I'm going to tell you what, I knew which hand that guy, which hand he scratched himself with. I mean, I knew everything about him when we played. When we saw him and we played him, we played him in the regular season after I'd got my ass whipped in preseason. And I tore his ass up. And we beat Miami because I tore his ass up. Because they figured that Fred could handle me. I mean, that Dwight could handle me one-on-one. Well, guess what? That didn't happen, my friend.
You did your homework. Nice.
I did my homework. But I'm going to tell you, he came up to me afterwards, after the game, and it's a damn nice compliment. He goes, Derland, he goes, I never dreamed anybody could beat me like you did today. He goes, hell of a game. He goes, man, he goes, I'm going to get my ass chewed out this week. He played for the Dolphins, Don Shula.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
funny.
But Fred, Dwight, he was, he's Alabama. He was Alabama boy. And his old teammate, Marty Lyons, who was my roommate up with the Jets the last year I played, Marty ended up, they played the Jets that season, and Marty cut him on a interception, and he didn't mean to tear up his knee, but tore his damn knee up, which caused nerve damage. And that was the end of the line for Dwight. But man, you talking about a center. Good Lord, that guy was great.
Now, throughout your career, you had incredible longevity, incredible durability. Who gets the credit for that?
Well, my ancestors, number one.
That's fair.
It's something you're born with, and it's the people of the community and everything I grew up in Poplar Bluff. They hard-working people, and I mean, it's just kind of a tough mindset those folks have up there. And I would say that the guy who extended my career 5 years was Russell Pedinastro. In fact, I know he extended my career 5 years. I believed in what he was teaching, and I was a disciple, and I followed it. And I only took off 2 weeks in the off season. I went back to work, and you really got to do that when you get older, because you get out of shape quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd take 2 weeks off, and then back to work I'd go. And that was, I think, it's just a work ethic is what you got to have a lot of, and a lot of luck. Injuries, I got injured, but I was able to overcome them because they weren't career-ending. But I mean, I had 3 knees. My knees were operated on 3 times, and I still came back and played. So. And you got to get a little lucky without getting a career-ending injury. And I had and everybody gets hurt. Everybody gets hurt. It's just part of the game. Mm-hmm. But you accept that and you move on.
So you made the Pro Bowl in '83. Was there anybody that you were actually excited to play with as opposed to against when you got there to Honolulu?
Not really. It's mostly just a grab-ass game. I mean, everybody has a good time. I mean, yeah, you want to play good. But it's not like a life and death deal like I was always involved with in New Orleans. Gotcha. But we played a tough game. I mean, it was a little bit more important to me because I hadn't been there before. But it was a good time. It was nice meeting the guys in a relaxed atmosphere instead of trying to kill one another all the time.
Gotcha.
I mentioned some of the awards and accolades that you've received throughout your career in the intro, but is there any one award that is extra special to you, or do they all kind of just meld into a whole lot of honors?
Every one of them is very special. It was damn nice to be selected in the 50th team with New Orleans, and then with the best of the best. That was a damn nice feeling, and it's some good guys involved in that. John Hill was part of that. John passed away a year ago. It was a year in October, but John and I actually lived together for 3 years, so we were close friends. And to be a part of it with him and Archie and Stan Brock, Tommy Myers, Ricky Jackson. Ricky, I love Ricky to death. He's another one of those Fred Dean kind of guys. He's indestructible. Indestructible. And you heard about Ricky in a car wreck, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that story.
Jesus Christ! I mean, that car, there wasn't any. It resembled a pile of junk. And Ricky just had a fractured cheekbone. He didn't miss a game. He put a brace on the outside of his helmet. He played. He's indestructible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I would say in college it was for the opportunity to play. We actually played Nebraska, and it really had national championship implications, because they ended up being 1 and we were 2. Because they won that game in '71 on Thanksgiving Day, and then I think making AP All-America, that was a thrill. Yeah, that was nice, because for the people who, when I was in high school, from going to a guy that nobody wanted to being an AP All-American, that's almost unheard of. Okay, but that was a nice thrill. It was a great feeling, and but there are all those awards and everything. It's very special, very special. But the 50th team with New Orleans, yeah, that was super special. Yeah, hey John, I'm going to tell you that my knees, I'm fixing to get my knees chopped on finally in September, getting some new wheels put in. But my knees were bad last year, okay, and they go, Derland, listen, we'll take you out there in a golf cart, and I said, you'll play hell too. So I said, all you got to do is get me to where I got to go to the ramp, and I said, I'm going to walk on that field, and I did, but I'm going to tell you, John, it was close. I got to where, when we came off the field, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get off it soon enough for them to start the game.
I guess when you're wired a certain way, there's only one option. So
there wasn't no option. The option was I was going to walk out there and I was going to walk off.
Right.
And that was it. And then I fell in that golf cart as soon as I got out of everybody's view.
So what did you do after you left the NFL?
Oh, shit, John, I went into the construction business, and I did that for 15 years, and I absolutely hated it. And I got out of that finally, saved my life. And I got in the storage business. You know, these self-storage, where thing that business didn't even exist 30 years ago, I don't think. But it's you wouldn't believe, how much. You wouldn't believe what a demand there is for that. It's incredible, because we're a country of we hoard things that are special to us, and
right.
And it's we don't want to get rid of everything, and I'm guilty of that. I don't want to get rid of my stuff. I mean, but it's what's amazing is people you meet. I really enjoy. It keeps me. John, I'm going to do it for as long as I can, because I truly enjoy talking with people, and we BS and all that. But it gives you a reason to get up and get moving in the morning.
Gotcha.
And as far as retire, I was always hog-wired to work. As we're growing up on a farm, and getting up at 4:30 in the morning every morning, milking a cow, and then you get to start your day, whatever it may be. But it's I think as long as my health holds out, I'm going to work. I'm going to work. I'm going to work until it's not enjoyable anymore, and I just don't see that happening.
Gotcha.
I enjoy. I'd work for free if there was no other way. I'd work for nothing.
Are you still close with a lot of your teammates?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. The hard part is, guys, that when you're young men and you're indestructible, and reaching the age now where some of them are passing away, and Hokey and I were roommates in training camp for 3 or 4 years, and seeing him pass away at 58 years old, that hurt. And Hokey, I tell you what, a guy who he gave it up. He didn't leave anything on the field. I mean, he was beat up pretty bad when he got to be 58 years old. And I would look at him, and I said, "Damn, Hokey," I said, "Do you have anything? Do you have any good joints on your body?" He said, "I don't know, Derland. I can't bend down and find out." But there's a feeling that you have, feeling of one always, and that's always going to be there. Brad Ellerman. I mean, I named my youngest son after him.
Wow.
And Brad Ellerman, I love him to death. He's a great guy. Give you 100,000% on the field. And I mean, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're played offense or defense, but on your teammates, there's just a feeling of family whenever you get with them. I mean, nothing's going to change that. And that's truly one of the greatest feelings in the world. That no matter what, hey, we're family, and that's the way it is. I mean, Ricky, you get together with all the with everybody. Yeah, we played, different times, some of us, but there's a feeling of family. Even the new guys that come in, I mean, there's a family atmosphere. I think that's the greatest thing about sports. I really do.
Well, that's it. We're going to put a bow on episode 1, Life of a Saint podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Who dat, everybody?